Hello everyone, welcome to part 3 of the Excel Pro series, Getting Started with Pivot Table. My name is Polly and I'll be your instructor today. In this course, we'll investigate how to summarize large amount of data with pivot tables. Here are the topics we'll be covering. First, we'll talk about what is pivot table. What exactly can a pivot table do? Next, we'll create pivot table together. And lastly, customize it. Throughout the course, there'll be hands-on exercises, quiz, and case study for you to better comprehend the topic.
Hey, Polly, you're just the person I'm looking for. Wow, why your hair so messy? I haven't been sleeping well. Boss asked me to summarize some data, and I'm doing it manually. It's taking me a very long time to do it. I think I need help. What you need is a pivot table.
Yes, pivot tables are interactive worksheets that are great for summarizing and analyzing data. From the giant sheet of data, you can create pivot table to summarize the data in just a few clicks. You can even generate a pivot chart from a pivot table. As you can see here, pivot table is dynamic. The user can perform filter on the pivot table. Don't worry if you think this looks complicated. Pivot tables are very easy to create. It doesn't require any complex formula. Just drag and drop. You'll soon see how. Now I'm going to show you how to create a pivot table. I encourage you to download the Excel file in the link below and work through the exercises with me. During the demonstration, you can pause or rewind the video. Okay, let's start. Here is a massive set of raw data. We are going to use it to create our pivot table. Here is an example of what we intend to build. This is a summary of the machine failures and the pivot chart that display the information visually. Back to the raw data. Before you start building a pivot table, it's a good idea to familiarize yourself with the raw data. Each row in the data contains information on each failure that occurs. For example, we have the manufacturing area, which is the area in which the machine is in, the machine type and ID, the failure event, the event date time, and the duration at which the machine is in that state. One example you want to do is to make sure that your data is in a tabular format. And that just means you have a row of header here at the top of the data, and each of these header describe the column of the data below. You want to make sure there's no blank columns within your header row and no blank rows. You also want to look out for merged cells. We don't want merged cells. For now, the data here looks pretty good. Let's dive in. To create a pivot table, first, we select a cell inside the data. Go to the Insert tab on the ribbon. Click the Pivot Table button. It will bring up a Create Pivot Table window. Basically, it's asking us to select the table or range. You can see that Excel automatically detected the range. If it doesn't, you can just click on this blue button over here and go and select your range. Next, we want to choose where we are going to put the pivot table. In this case, we'll put it on a new worksheet. So I'll go ahead and click OK. Now, you'll see that it automatically added a new sheet to our workbook here and created this pivot table area. You also notice over on the right side, a pivot table field list has appeared. And this is basically the window we are going to use to create our pivot table. Here is a list of all the fields in our data. And down below are the areas which we can place the field into to create our pivot table. first, I'm going to find the machine ID field. I'm going to drag it into the row area. So I left click and hold and drag it into the area. You'll notice now that the pivot table has listed our machine ID in the row area, and each row contains our machine ID. Now I want to add the failure hours to the report as well, so I can get a summary of the hours. I'm going to drag it to the value area and drop it there. You'll notice Excel has automatically calculated the sum of hours for each row. With just a few clicks, you can see we have automatically created this summary report for our data. I have a pivot table diagram here that shows you where each of the areas are within your pivot table. It shows you the different areas that you can drag the fields into your pivot table and how each of them will display the information. For example, here we have the machine ID on the left side and the date across the top, the sum of hours in here in the middle section, and up here we have the area as the filter. Can I change the value from sum to average? If you ever need to change how Excel summarizes your data, select any cell in the value area and right-click. Select the value field setting. You can choose average if you like to see the average duration of the failure instead of the sum. Can I sort the data? To sort the information to see which machine has the highest failure hours, I'm just going to select any cells in the value area, right-click, then go to Sort, sort largest to smallest. Now that's sorted, we can see which machine gives us the most issue. How do I create a chart from the pivot table? First, select any cell in a pivot table, go to the Analyze tab, click Pivot Chart. You will bring up this chart window, select the chart unit and click OK. So now we have automatically created this chart. I have one last challenge for you. Based on the data you were working on in the earlier part of the course, can you find out what is the average failure hours for machine C?
Hey, Polly, I managed to finish tabulating the data. The pivot table was a great help. Awesome. I'm glad to see your hand in the balance sheet too. Hey, come lah, I'll buy you coffee. Hang on. Before we go, click on the button and see you at the course.